Imposter syndrome is the tendency to believe your success is undeserved and that someday people will realize you're a fraud. Imposter syndrome is not a diagnosable mental illness, but it's a cognitive distortion that may affect as many as 70 to 80% of people at some point of their lives. Hello and welcome back to another episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy. Now, we just wrapped up the retreat and let me tell you, the prep work beforehand mattered more than anything. The detail, the intention, the energy in the room, and being able to watch women connect, build genuine relationships, and walk away with real strategies, tools, and clarity. That's what makes it all worth it. The feedback about the retreat has been incredible, and I'm also so grateful for my team, Nick, Andre, and Tara. They were all holding everything together behind the scenes, and none of it happens without them. Now, on the outside, the retreat looked like a huge success, but what I haven't spoken about yet is what was happening internally in the lead up to it. Because behind the strategy documents and event schedules was a lot of self-doubt. Would people actually want to come? Is this content good enough for someone to leave their business, their family, their partner for a week and fly to Vietnam? Are they coming for me, or do they only care about the guest speakers? Are we giving enough value? Should we add more? Should we over-deliver even more? And even after hearing such positive feedback, there was still that voice of, did we do enough? Was it really that good? Could it have been better? And that's when I realized something. Imposter syndrome doesn't disappear when you level up. It often gets louder. And here's the craziest part about all of this. I have run large-scale events before. I've managed a beauty pageant with contestants, sponsors, event schedules, and marketing. I've run rodeos with 5,000 attendees. I've organized a music festival. I've led teams of 30 plus people since I was 19. The experience is there. The capability is there. But my brain conveniently blocked out all of that. And instead, it zoomed in on what I hadn't done before. It tried to convince me I was underqualified, I was inadequate, and that's when it clicked for me. Imposter syndrome is poor evidence collection. And if you don't correct it, it becomes self-sabotage. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is the tendency to believe your success is undeserved and that someday people will realize you're a fraud. The belief persists even when you have concrete evidence such as degrees, certifications, or awards, or all this social proof from your clients that proves you are worthy of your accomplishments. Imposter syndrome is not a diagnosable mental illness, but it's a cognitive distortion that may affect as many as 70 to 80% of people at some point of their lives. Now, how does it show up in our lives? Well, imposter syndrome hits differently when you're a woman in business, especially if you're building something visible, ambitious, and leadership-based. Now, here's how it can play out. You underprice yourself. You second-guess your value. You look at your experience, your results, and you still think, who am I to charge that? So you keep your prices safe instead of strategic. You over-deliver to prove your worth. You work harder to justify your fees. And instead of building profit, you build exhaustion. Another way that it can show up in business is that you delay opportunities. You wait until you feel ready. You wait until you feel more qualified. You wait until you feel more confident, and you tell yourself things like, I need another course, I need more experience, I need more followers, I need to be better at speaking. Meanwhile, someone less experienced but more self-assured takes the stage and launches the offer, applies for the award, or pitches the collaboration. Now, this is something that I struggled with a lot, and it's something that I've definitely worked on now. But when you come into that group setting, you shrink in rooms that you deserve to be in. So let's say you walk into a room of high-level founders and you immediately assume that they're smarter, they're more established, they're more legitimate than you. And so you make yourself feel small. You speak less, you question your ideas in your head, you don't want to share your wins, and you play small, even though you know you earned your seat at that table. Now, another thing that I see a lot that happens, especially with my clients as well, is that you feel the need to earn your place by overworking. So you feel like you have to prove that you belong there. So you work longer hours, you say yes to everything, you avoid delegation because no one can do it as well as you. And this isn't because you're incapable, but it's because if you feel like you stop producing or you stop going ahead and doing all the extra things, you'll be exposed. Now, the last main factor that I see showing up in business is when you struggle to own your authority. So what this looks like is softening your language. You downplay your success. You laugh off big achievements. And instead of saying in full confidence, I built this, you start to say things like, oh, it was just good timing, or I got lucky. And over time, that narrative actually becomes your identity. So for many women, imposter syndrome isn't just a personal insecurity. It's layered with conditioning to be agreeable, not assertive. It's fear of being seen as too much. It's fear of being judged. It's lack of representation in leadership spaces. So when you start building something bold, visible, profitable, you're not just battling doubt, you're battling an identity. Now, if you look at the real cost of this in your business, it's not just going to impact how you feel. It's going to impact your revenue, your visibility, your leadership, your growth ceiling, because you can't scale a business beyond the level of authority you're willing to own. And the moment you stop trying to prove you're capable and you just start deciding that you are, everything will shift for you. Because confidence in business isn't built by feeling ready. It's built by acting before you do. Now, when I was looking at my own journey in imposter syndrome, it's shown up so many times. And if you're someone who also looks at other people who are killing it in the business space, and then you start to feel like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, or it's not going to work for me, or all the things that I've achieved, like it's just a one-hit wonder, like I don't know if I could pull it off a second time. I really want to encourage you to have a look into this book. It's called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women and Men: Why Capable People Suffer from Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive in Spite of It. It's by Valerie Young, and she identifies 5 forms of imposter syndrome. Now, when I looked at my own life, I realized that I was multiple versions of this imposter syndrome. And it doesn't always mean that you're just going to be one forever. There might be different areas. And as you level up in business, as you start to push yourself out of your comfort zone and do things that have never been done, it's only natural that your body's going to go into that fight or flight. You're going to feel scared. You're going to feel uncomfortable, and you might shrink yourself and feel small. But I like to look at imposter syndrome as a sign of growth. When you're feeling that imposter syndrome, it means that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You're expanding, you're doing new things. And because you don't have that past proof to actually show you that it's safe, that it's okay, your body is going to start freezing up and it's going to want to reject it. And the more that you actually start experiencing imposter syndrome, I actually think that's a great thing, because it shows A, that you're not a narcissist. If you thought you were already good at everything and, the world owes it to you, then that would be a big problem. But if you're actually experiencing these stages in business or life where you feel underqualified, or you don't feel like you're good enough, or you're doubting yourself, that's great, because it means that you're pushing yourself for that level of growth that you probably wouldn't get if you just stayed in the comfort zone. So, coming back to Dr. Valerie and what she says about the 5 different forms of imposter syndrome. As you listen to these, notice which one sounds uncomfortably familiar for you. So the first one is the perfectionist. You set unrealistically high standards for yourself and sometimes for the people around you too. Anything less than perfect usually feels like failure. So you replay the conversations in your head. You overanalyze your work. You doubt whether what you've produced is actually good enough, even when everyone else says it is. Now, the next one that can come up is the superhuman. Now, this type of person is the one that you don't just want to do one thing well, you expect yourself to do everything well. You measure your own worth by how much you can juggle, how many roles you can master, and how much you can carry without dropping the ball. And you say yes too often. You overextend. You feel guilty when you rest. Now, I'm just going to say it. The first two, definitely something that I have experienced a lot of. And the way that it shows up in my life is that I'm trying to always raise the bar. I'm always thinking it's not good enough. And what can be really toxic about that is never actually being able to appreciate the wins or see yourself as a success. And that's where burnout can happen, because you're always pushing for the bigger, better next thing rather than actually sitting in the success of what you're achieving, and also congratulating yourself, being proud of yourself, feeling accomplished. Now, as entrepreneurs, we always want to level up, right? We're always chasing the next thing. We love growth. We're addicted to it. But the downside is if you can't celebrate those wins or you can't recognize that success, then no matter how hard you push, no matter how many things you try to do, awards, achievements, certifications, degrees, you'll still feel empty inside. So let's talk about another form of imposter syndrome, which is the natural genius. So this type of person will be the one that believes that they're truly capable, things should come easily. So you think, if I'm good at this, I shouldn't need help. I shouldn't need practice. I shouldn't need multiple attempts. Now, when something takes time, effort, or repeated failure, you question whether you're actually talented at all. Now, if none of these have been applying to you so far, maybe you're a soloist. You believe that asking for help is a weakness. You tell yourself that if you were really competent, you'd be able to figure it out alone. So you push through it quietly. And if you do collaborate or get support, you sometimes feel like the win doesn't fully count because you didn't do it all yourself. Now, on the other end of that, you've got the expert. And this is when you feel like you need to know everything before you begin. So you hesitate to start until you've done another course, you've earned another certification, you've read another book. You think, who am I to speak on this? I don't know enough yet. Even when you're already more qualified than most, it still doesn't feel like it's enough. Now, like I was saying before, as you hear these, you might realize that you don't just fit into one. You might see pieces of yourself in several, and that awareness is where the real work begins. So if you're a high-performing woman struggling with self-doubt, I want to share some tips with you that can help you overcome your imposter. And before I go into these tips, I just want to remind you that like every single business owner, every single woman, every single person goes through this. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing that you should be sitting there feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm the only one that's going through this. I can't talk about it, because I can guarantee you every single person has experienced this on some level. Now, when we were at the Beauty Industry Leaders Business Retreat, imposter syndrome was something that every single woman in that room had struggled with. Now, whether it was implementing a price increase, whether it was implementing boundaries and saying no to clients who were trying to take advantage of the relationship that they built, whether it was a team member who wasn't holding themselves accountable or to the standard of the business, imposter syndrome can feel really uncomfortable, because who are you to go and start leading other people? Who are you to start standing up for yourself? It's scary, right? As women, we've been told, you know what? Look pretty, be quiet, be agreeable, and you'll be accepted. And if you look at successful, high-performing women, women that are leading, women that are making an impact, they're anything but that, right? And I want to encourage you to take up space, to actually believe in yourself, to actually let that imposter say its thing, freak you out, and then tell it doesn't matter, because I'm still going to do what I want to do anyways. Now, things that have helped me get over imposter syndrome is building a proof file. And this is really great because when your doubt gets loud in your brain will start to delete evidence. And so I have my notes app, and then in my notes app on my phone, I have this one thread where I store all my client wins, testimonials, any screenshots of text messages from clients that are really nice, revenue milestones, results that I've created, things that I've done or had to overcome and survived that I didn't think I would get through, because all of this starts to become proof. Now, when you think I'm not good enough, I want you to open up this file, because imposter syndrome will only survive on selective memory. But if you have this evidence, that will shut it down. So on those days where you feel like your business isn't working, you don't know if you should launch the thing, you're having that fear, that self-doubt, going back and looking at all the things that you have achieved, that you've overcome, that is solid evidence and proof of what you're accomplishing as a human being, it definitely makes it a lot easier for you to start to tune out all those negative voices that are holding you back or making you feel like you're not good enough, because you have solid proof. You have evidence. And sometimes it's really hard for us to even believe it when we see it. So get a friend that you know can have your back during these times. Give them a phone call and just let them know where you're at and have a conversation, because sometimes it's better to just talk it through with someone rather than let your brain go into that self-sabotage spiraling pattern where you just start to think the worst of everything and you just keep getting deeper and deeper to the point where you just paralyze yourself from taking any action because you're overwhelmed and you've just lost all your confidence. Now, another tip that I think is really valuable to share when it comes with trying to negate imposter syndrome is actually just taking action before you feel ready. Confidence is not a feeling, it's actually a consequence. So instead of waiting until you feel certain, just do the thing. Launch the offer, raise the price, apply for the opportunity, speak up in the room. You don't become confident and then act. You act and then that confidence follows. Now, on the first day of the retreat, one of the things that we spoke about is stepping into the identity of the person that you want to become. And it's really hard to do that when you're constantly living this life every single day and you're not really changing anything. And if you knew, okay, to get to becoming a 7-figure founder or to become an industry leader, how would I show up? How would I act? What clothes would I wear? Who would I be surrounding myself with? What would my daily routine look like? When you can start to actually design the identity and the lifestyle and you act as if you are that, everything else will start to follow and come into place. And then that's where that confidence, that reassurance, that loop starts to become stronger and stronger. Because if you do something once, it's kind of a fluke, right? And this is where the imposter comes in. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I could do it again. But if you show up that way with intention and consistency every single day, this is when it becomes solid proof for you. This becomes your new reality. And as a result, you start to attract more opportunities and you start to see even more momentum in your business because you're doing the things. You're becoming the person. Even if you don't feel like you're ready yet, you're still showing up, and that's what works. Now, I know when I get into these imposter syndrome mindset spirals, I would probably say, I find that it's very easy to get stuck on social media, always consuming other people's content and then starting to procrastinate or compare. Sometimes imposter syndrome will hide behind, I need to learn more, which could be, I need to do another course, I need to listen to another podcast, I need another certification. And I want you to set a new rule when this comes up for you. For every hour you consume, you must implement something. Execution will build belief. But if you get stuck in that trap or that cycle of constantly needing to learn more and more and more, it will feed your doubt. Now, there's an amazing woman at my coffee shop that she has 3 degrees now. And it's insane. Like, she is so smart. And why is she still working at a coffee shop? Because she's convinced that she needs to do a PhD just to start working, because with her whole mindset around education, which is really interesting, she kept feeling like, I need to have this degree and then I have to have this honors and I have to have this master's before I can just do the thing. And if you actually look back at her whole journey, had she just gone and done the degree and then taken action and gained real experience, she would have failed, she would have made mistakes, and she would have learned things that would help her skyrocket her growth. But instead, she's kind of gone the opposite way, where she's constantly relying on more education, more degrees, and as a result, more student debt because she doesn't believe in herself. And the conversation that I've had with her is that if you look at where you want to go in your future, there's only so much learning you can do until you're overqualified, but you have no experience. And sometimes getting the certifications, getting the mentorship, getting the support is amazing, and it can help you fast track results. But then at the same time, you need to also be able to identify when you're just constantly leaning on someone or something else because you don't believe in yourself. And taking that action, making the mistake, getting that feedback, improving, that's what's going to help you overcome imposter syndrome. Because imposter syndrome is this fear where you're not good enough, you can't do it, it's a fluke. Even if you did achieve something, that you just got lucky. But if you can start making those mistakes, if you can view failure as success because it's contributing to your learning, your growth, your personal development, you will become resilient. And resilience is what allows you to keep thriving and surviving even during hard times. Now, the second last thing that I want to talk about is actually reframing growth discomfort. Now, if you feel like a fraud, I want you to ask yourself, am I actually underqualified or am I just expanding? Feeling stretched usually means that you're stepping into a new level. Discomfort isn't exposure, it's actually expansion. That feeling that, I'm going to be found out, I'm a fraud, other people are going to know the truth. Well, what if the thing is, people realize that you're actually really good at this thing? What if people actually find out that, wow, you should have probably started this years ago? You don't know unless you try. Now, the last point that I want to make about overcoming your imposter syndrome is making it about the service and not you. When we look at imposter syndrome, it's very self-focused. You're going to ask yourself, what if I fail? What if they judge me? And that's honestly very fair that you feel that way, but I want you to start shifting it to who actually needs this? How will this help someone? Because when your focus moves from proving yourself to serving others, your fear loses its center stage. Now, with the Beauty Industry Leaders podcast, being able to create this platform where not only am I sharing areas of my life and my own business knowledge and skills, but also opening it up as a stage for other people to come in, calling it Beauty Industry Leaders. There were so many times where I was like, who am I to start this? Who am I to be able to get these people onto the podcast? Who am I to actually give advice? But on the other side of that is all the messages that you receive when someone said, I was about to give up my business and I found this and it helped me. Or it's, I wasn't enforcing boundaries and I couldn't see that, but now I do because of this story that was shared. Or it's, wow, I didn't realize that there's this whole thing of hiring a VA that could save me so much time and not having to do it all myself. There's so many different things that we share on this podcast that now help more people than you could have ever possibly imagined. And so when you think about your own situation, whether it's showing up online, whether it's leading a team, whether it's creating a new offer, a new service, it's doing something out of the norm. It's going to stretch you, it's going to expand you, and you're going to feel uncomfortable. But that's good because it shows that you're growing and it's showing that you're challenging that old version of you who didn't think that this could even become possible for you. So here's what I want you to do after this episode. And I say after this episode because I don't want it to be tomorrow or next week. I want it to be today. First thing is you're going to open up your notes app and write down 10 pieces of evidence that prove you are capable. 10. I want you to look at client results, revenue milestones, risks you've taken, rooms that you've walked into, and hard seasons that you have survived. Times you led when it would have been easier to quit. Because right now, your brain is going to be lying to you through omission. It's not that you're underqualified. It's not that you're undercrediting yourself. And here's the truth that you need to hear. You are not behind. You are not underqualified. And you are not lucky. You are expanding. And expansion feels uncomfortable. But discomfort is not exposure. It's growth. So the next time that voice whispers, "Who do you think you are?" I want your response to be simple. "I'm someone who is building something bigger." And then I want you to act accordingly. Raise the price, pitch the idea, speak in the room, launch the thing. Not because you feel ready, but because you've decided you are. Imposter syndrome only wins if it changes your behavior. So don't let it. Move away and watch what happens. Now, if this episode resonated with you, if there was even one moment where you thought, "That's me," then I'd love to ask you for one small favor. Can you please take some time out of your day to leave a review on Apple Podcasts? Because when you leave a review, it helps this show reach more women in business who are quietly questioning themselves while building something powerful. Your words might be the thing that makes someone else feel less alone in their growth. So if this episode gave you value, perspective, or even just language for something that you've been feeling, please take 30 seconds and share that. It genuinely means more than you realize, and I promise I read every single one. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to catching you in next week's episode. Bye.
Audience exclusive.